I want you to pause for a second. Just stop. Take a breath. Look at where you are right now. Maybe you're sitting in your car, maybe you're winding down in your bedroom, or maybe you just stumbled across this while trying to distract yourself from a heavy mind. You might think you clicked on this video because of the title, or perhaps the algorithm just tossed it your way. But I need you to understand something fundamental before we go any further. There are no accidents in the kingdom of God. The fact that you are hearing my voice right now is not a coincidence. It is a divine appointment. It is a collision between your timeline and heaven's intent. I know you've been feeling it lately, that strange, restless sensation in your chest. It's that feeling where you look around at your life and think, is this it? Am I missing something? You see other people moving forward, don't you? It feels like everyone else is getting their breakthrough. They're getting the promotions, the relationships, the peace of mind, while you feel like you're walking through mud. You feel stuck. You feel unheard. And in the quietest moments of the night, a terrifying thought creeps in. Maybe God has forgotten me. Maybe I'm just left behind. Let me silence that lie right now. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. There is a profound difference between being rejected and being hidden. A seed, when it is planted, feels like it has been buried in dirt, left to die in the dark. But the farmer knows that the darkness isn't a tomb, it's a womb. It is the necessary environment for the roots to go deep before the shoot can go high. You haven't been denied. You've been in the dark room of development. God has been shielding you from the noise so that you can tune into His frequency. And here is why this message is urgent. The season is shifting. Can you sense it? It's not just a mood swing. It's a spiritual, atmospheric pressure change. That restlessness you feel isn't anxiety. It's your spirit waking up. It's the internal alarm clock of your soul ringing because the time for waiting is transitioning into the time for moving. God is trying to get your attention because He protects His children through intuition before He protects them through intervention. That gut feeling you've been having, the sudden urge to stop doing something, the inexplicable heaviness when you're around certain people, or that sudden warm wash of peace when you think about a new direction, that is not just your imagination. That is the Holy Spirit. That is God's localized GPS system for your life. He is knocking on the door of your heart right now because He wants to hand you the keys to the next chapter. But He needs you to stop looking at the closed doors behind you and start looking at the one opening right in front of you. This is your confirmation. If your heart is beating a little faster right now, if you feel a warmth spreading through you as you listen to this, acknowledge it. That is God saying, I see you. I haven't missed a moment. And we are about to begin. Redefining suffering and the set-apart mission. Now we need to have a very honest conversation about the pain you've carried. If we look at your life, there's a pattern, isn't there? It seems like you've had to endure things that would crush other people. You've faced betrayals that came out of nowhere. You've dealt with financial droughts, emotional storms, and family crises that felt relentless. It's almost as if you have a target on your back. For the longest time, you've probably asked, why is this so hard? What is wrong with me? I am here to tell you, there is nothing wrong with you. There is something right with you. The intensity of your struggle is proof of the magnitude of your calling. You see, the enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. If you were insignificant, your life would be easy. If you had no destiny, you would have no resistance. But because you carry something heavy, something valuable that God wants to bring into this world, you have faced resistance from the very beginning. Think about how diamonds are made. They aren't formed in gentle sunlight. They are forged in the crushing dark, under immense pressure and heat. What the world calls trauma, heaven calls refining. What you thought was breaking you was actually making you unbreakable. God hasn't been ignoring your pain. He has been using it to build a spiritual infrastructure inside you that can hold the weight of the blessing He is about to pour out. This goes back further than you realize. This isn't just about your adult life. You were marked before you were even born. Jeremiah 1 verse 5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." That phrase, set apart, is crucial. To be set apart often feels like being pushed aside. It feels like isolation. Have you ever felt like the black sheep? Like you don't quite fit in with your family, your co-workers, or even your friends. You walk into a room and you feel different. You feel the energy of the room deeper than others. You spot the lies when everyone else sees smiles. You grieve for the world while everyone else is just scrolling through it. That isolation wasn't an accident. It was a quarantine for your protection. God couldn't let you get comfortable in the crowd, because if you fit into the crowd, you would eventually become like the crowd. And the world doesn't need more copies. It needs the original design that God placed in you. Look at history. Look at the biblical figures we admire. Joseph was thrown into a pit and sold by his brothers. David was left alone in the fields to fight lions while his brothers were at home. Moses spent 40 years in the desert. They were all isolated. They were all misunderstood. They all faced heat that seemed unfair. But that heat burned away their dependency on people and forged a dependency on God. So, I want you to change your perspective on your scars. Stop looking at them as evidence of damage. Start looking at them as your credentials. The reason you can empathize with others so deeply is because you've bled. The reason you can spot danger is because you've survived it. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a student of God's supreme design. You were built for this pressure because you were born to change the atmosphere, not just survive in it, activating the inner light and the divine shift. So, here we stand at a crossroads. We've acknowledged the pain, and we've recognized the pattern of being set apart. But recognition isn't enough. Awareness without action is just a philosophy. It doesn't change your reality. Now we must move into activation. There is a command echoing from the heavens over your life right now. It is the same command given to ancient prophets and sleeping giants throughout history. Arise and shine. I know those words might feel heavy, especially if you've spent years shrinking yourself. Many of us have been conditioned to hide our light. Maybe you were told you were too much, too intense, too emotional, too sensitive. So you learned to dim your radiance just to make others comfortable in their darkness. You learned to walk on eggshells so you wouldn't disturb the peace of people who were committed to misunderstanding you. But the days of hiding are over. You're not allowed to doubt yourself anymore. I want you to reframe every failure you think you've had. Look back at the closed doors. At the time, they felt like rejection, didn't they? They felt like God was saying no. But with the wisdom of hindsight, can you see them for what they truly were? They were redirections. If that relationship hadn't ended, you would have been trapped in a cycle that drained your soul. If you had gotten that job you desperately wanted, you might have missed the calling that is actually meant for you. God closes doors to protect you in rooms where you have been destroyed. Every delay was not a denial. It was a divine pause to let you catch up to your own maturity. And let's talk about the opposition you faced early in life. Have you ever wondered why it felt like the enemy came for you when you were just a child or when you were most vulnerable? Think about this. Thieves do not break into empty houses. They don't waste their time trying to rob a vault that has nothing inside. They come for the treasure. The reason you faced such intense spiritual warfare, the reason you felt targeted by negativity or abuse or exclusion from a young age, is because the enemy saw your potential before you did. The darkness was terrified of the light you carried. It tried to break you early so you wouldn't rise later. But here is the beautiful irony. The very things meant to destroy you have only served to deepen your roots. You are still here. You are still standing. And that makes you dangerous to the darkness. So, I am asking you to make a choice right now. A real, tangible choice. You are standing on the edge of a new season, but you cannot carry the old baggage of, "I'm not good enough," across this threshold. It's too heavy. It doesn't fit where you are going. I want you to say this with me. You can whisper it, think it, or say it out loud, but let your spirit hear it. I accept this truth. I have been set apart. I am done hiding. This isn't just a positive affirmation. It is a declaration of war against the stagnation in your life. When you agree with God about who you are, you unlock the resources of heaven. The moment you stop apologizing for your existence is the moment your true destiny begins to unfold. The burden of stewardship and the law of waiting. As you accept this calling, we must speak about the weight of it. Because to be chosen is not just a privilege, it is a responsibility. There is a spiritual law that governs the universe. To whom much is given, much is required. You have looked at others who seem to glide through life with shallow concerns and easy paths, and you've wondered why your road is so steep. Why do you have to be the strong one? Why do you have to be the cycle breaker in your family? Why does God trust you with so much trouble? It is because you are a steward of sorrows. God uses people like you as foundations, and foundations have to bear weight. You are being built to carry a heavy blessing, one that involves helping others, healing generational wounds, and standing firm when the world shakes. If you were built with cheap materials, you would have crumbled by now. But you are built with the iron of perseverance and the gold of faith. Think about those nights when you cried alone, the silent battles no one saw, the prayers you whispered into the dark when you felt like giving up. You thought those were moments of weakness. But in the eyes of God, that was construction. You were being hollowed out so you could be filled with something greater. You were learning to trust God in the dark so you could represent Him in the light. And now, I believe you are entering your seventh day. In the creation story, the seventh day wasn't a day of work. It was a day of completion and rest. It was the day God looked at His work and said, "It is finished." For many of you, the season of striving is ending. The walls of Jericho in your life, those stubborn financial blocks, those emotional patterns that keep repeating, those relationships that go nowhere, they are trembling. They are about to fall. Not by your might, but by His Spirit. You are moving from a season of fighting for victory into a season of resting in victory. However, there is a warning here. And I say this with love, but I must be direct. Do not let hesitation rob you of your harvest. There is a dangerous trap that spiritual people fall into. We call it waiting on God, but often it is actually God waiting on us. We mask our fear as patience. We say, "I'm just praying about it," when God has already said, "Go." Hesitation is a subtle form of resistance. Is standing on the edge of the Red Sea, watching the waters part, and still asking for a sign because you are afraid to get your feet wet. If you feel the urge to move, to start that project, to make that call, to forgive that person, to step out in faith, do not wait for the fear to go away. The fear will not leave until you move. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in obedience despite the fear. The window of opportunity is open now. The wind is at your back, but windows do not stay open forever. God is ready to pour out the blessing, but He needs a vessel that is in motion. He cannot steer a parked car. So ask yourself, what have I been putting off? What decision have I been delaying because I'm afraid of the unknown? That delay is the only thing standing between you and the breakthrough you've been praying for. The seventh day of rest and completion is here, but you have to walk into it. Don't stop now. You are too close to turn back. Concrete action and the unmasking of the lie. We've seen the danger of hesitation. We've acknowledged that calling requires movement. But sometimes an abstract call to action is not enough. We need a physical anchor. We need a moment where the spiritual becomes tangible. Let me share a quick story that drives this point home. Years ago, I knew a woman. Let's call her Eleanor. Eleanor had carried a profound vision for decades to start a support group for single parents dealing with grief. She had the wisdom, the empathy, and the experience. But she kept saying, "I'm not ready. I need more certification. Maybe next quarter, Lord." She asked for signs and got them. Yet she stayed still, waiting for the feeling of perfect readiness. Finally, just weeks before a severe health setback that required her to step away from all external work, she pushed herself to start the small group. The group thrived, but the ultimate fulfillment, the joy of growing that ministry to its full potential, was transferred to someone else. She watched her destiny unfold from the sidelines, carrying the deep, quiet ache of, "What if I hadn't waited?" Don't let hesitation rob you of your reward. Your fulfillment is tied to your obedience now. This is why I need you to do something concrete. We are making a vow, a covenant, that will shift the spiritual ground beneath you. Find something to write on. A sticky note, the back of an envelope, or a napkin. At the top, write down the date you are receiving this message. Underneath it, write these four simple, powerful words: no more holding back. This is not a phrase. This is a binding agreement. You are telling heaven, "I am ready for the rapid acceleration. I am ready to receive the answers that will come to me faster than I can process them." Writing it down is the spiritual seal on your readiness. You are closing the door on rationalization, fear, and self-sabotage. But why have we held back in the first place? Because the enemy convinced you of a powerful lie. The greatest deception the opposition ever pulled wasn't convincing the world that God doesn't exist. It was convincing those designated for greatness that they were insignificant. It persuaded you that you were just common, that you were meant to manage and settle for scraps while others flourished. That voice did not come from your Creator. It came from the very force that is terrified of your awakening. The reason you felt unworthy to step into that opportunity, the reason you shrank from that platform, the reason you didn't reach for that blessing, is because you stopped seeing yourself through God's eyes and started seeing yourself through the eyes of your past disappointments. That mindset must end right now. Therefore, your second powerful action is the affirmation of your true status. Write this underneath your first vow: I embrace my true self. This is the ultimate rebellion against the lie. It means you are recognizing that you are a child of divine origin, entitled not by what you do, but by whose you are. When you genuinely embrace this identity, the force that tried to obstruct you for years loses its power. Doubt breaks, confusion lifts, and uncertainty dissolves, because the individual who began listening to this message is not the same one who will finish it. You are undergoing a change in status, the final threshold and the crown of endurance. You see, your uncertainty about your identity hasn't just affected your emotions, it has affected everything. It weakened your body through pressure and stress. It affected your resources because you operated from a place of lack. It hindered your purpose because you blocked opportunities before they even fully appeared. But here is the absolute truth that changes the trajectory of your entire future. When you finally embrace who God says you are, the world around you begins to respond to your inherent authority. Challenges yield, paths open, resources flow. Not because your external world changed first, but because your internal posture shifted. You are no longer seeking blessings, you are walking in them. This is the new reality you have just written into existence. Now let's address the illusion of time, particularly for those of you in a more seasoned stage of life. If you are looking at the calendar, or perhaps looking in the mirror, and hearing the world whisper, your season is over. You're too old for this now. I want you to challenge that lie with divine perspective. Look at the marks time has traced upon you, the gray in your hair, the lines etched around your eyes, the quiet wisdom in your bearing. These are not signs of decay. They are proof of divine purification. Every line is a story of endurance, every silver strand a crown of perseverance. God didn't allow you to endure all that you have endured just to disappear into obscurity. In His timing, some of the greatest purposes only begin to reveal themselves when the world believes they should be ending. You are built for this moment precisely because of the time you've spent in preparation. We are at the very end of this journey together. You are standing at the final threshold. You've acknowledged the truth. You've vowed to hold nothing back. You've claimed your true identity. Now all that remains is the final decisive action, the seal of your faith. I need you to say this with every fiber of your being. Let it be the declaration that separates your life into the time before this moment and the time after it. Whisper it, shout it, or declare it in your heart. I am ready to receive everything. I will walk in my purpose fulfilled. This is not a hopeful wish. It is a spiritual command. The barriers are yielding. Every lie that told you were too late, too broken, or not enough is collapsing. The heavens are attentive, waiting to see you finally rise into the inherent worth that has always belonged to you. No more retreat, no more doubt, no more presenting yourself with false modesty. You were chosen, you were set apart, and now you are activated. This is your moment. Walk through.